The day before the big engagement, my first love, Ellie, came face to face with me. She rocked a red dress, totally different from her usual pale look, and flashed a grin while challenging me. "If I don't want you two to tie the knot, it won't go down," she said. "Just watch, Liz. See what happens." And sure enough, as she predicted, the engagement fell apart. When Tyler heard Ellie had a major depressive episode, he lost it. The guests were already hanging out outside. In the dressing room, Tyler ripped off his tie angrily, matching his white suit. He grabbed his keys and, while heading out, left a note for me. "Liz, I'm sorry, but I need to see her." My heart froze, and I blocked his way, telling him that if he stepped out that door today, it was game over between us. He frowned impatiently and started blaming me. "Liz, enough already. I've already said yes to marrying you. What more do you want? Don't forget, you were the one pushing for this engagement." I stared at him confused. How did our family's alliance turn into me, begging him in his own words? Without saying another word, he shoved me aside and stormed out. I nearly toppled, but the stylist beside me caught me. After a brief pause, she cautiously asked, "Liz, you still want to change your outfit?" I glanced at the custom wedding dress prepared a year ago and nodded without hesitation. The engagement ceremony went on as planned. Dragging my fancy dress, I stood on the stage and broke the bad news to both families and the guests. My granddad was livid when he heard, immediately pointing at Tyler's granddad and cursing. "Mr. Bennett, is this the good grandson you raised? Who came to me wanting our Liz to marry into the Bennett family? Mr. Bennett," he continued, sitting high up, "you're utterly humiliated by this brat. Call him back now, or I swear I'll beat him to death." Among the shocked guests, Reggie Bennett, the second young master of the Bennett family, watched it all with a smirk. He sipped his red wine lazily, giving me a mocking smile. I met Reggie's gaze head on and went on. "This engagement took a lot of time and effort, Reggie. Now I need a fiancé. You got the guts to step up." Everyone was stunned, eyes shifting to the flamboyant and arrogant Reggie in the crowd. Reggie was Tyler's cousin and never involved in the Bennett family business. Didn't Tyler take pride in being the future heir? Well, I'd show him that anyone could take that spot. The guy raised an eyebrow, a small grin playing on his lips, and slowly stood up under the bright lights. "Honored to accept Miss Liz's invitation." Reggie walked onto the stage, taking the ring box from the MC with his long fingers, and placed the diamond ring on my finger. After that, he leaned in, wrapped his arms around me, and kissed me. The crowd erupted with cheers and screams, champagne and confetti flying everywhere. He whispered in my ear, kinda regretful, "Liz, you should have picked me earlier, but it's not too late now." I saw a playful, wicked spark in his eyes. Tyler's parents kept griping about how unacceptable this was. They were fuming. After their sister died, old Mr. Bennett brought Reggie back, and they tried everything to stop it. They never expected Reggie would even try to snatch their son's girlfriend. Mr. Bennett shouted sternly, "Shut it! Tyler has done something so disgraceful to our family, and you're not ashamed? It's our family that wronged Liz. Liz choosing anyone from our family would be an honor." My granddad snorted coldly and kicked them out without even letting them stay for dinner. Originally, the Bennett Group members who sided with Tyler saw things shifting and started cozying up to Reggie at the engagement party. I chose Reggie not just to help him for nothing. That day, I made it clear to him, "If you fully back me in completing the project between our families, I'll help you take over the Bennett Group. My family is in pharma, and I've always wanted to develop a new line, a health drink that the younger crowd would dig. Through this, we partnered with the beverage giant, the Bennett Group." However, the Mossman Group folks were always skeptical, just waiting for me to mess up. As long as I nailed the collaboration, I could use the success to shut down those old-timers in the group who looked down on me. Reggie's dark eyes stayed locked on mine, unsure of what he was thinking or how much he got. I glared at him, and he suddenly grinned, leaned in close, and said softly, "Liz, shouldn't we think about our honeymoon now? We're not even married, so what's a honeymoon?" I snapped back, "Did you even hear what I just said?" He shook his head. "Well, you never handled the Bennett family business, so it might take you a while to get it." "Forget it. I'll help you." I was about to explain when he pulled me into his arms, and I instinctively pressed against his chest. His nose touched mine, and his deep eyes pulled me in before he kissed me. Teach me, Liz, and I'll learn. Stop. I didn't. I pushed him away subconsciously. I only planned to use him to get back at Tyler, not to get tangled with him. But his kiss silenced my voice, leaving me dazed. Suddenly, he lifted me off the ground and carried me to the bedroom. Scared of falling, I wrapped my arms around his neck and clamped my legs around his waist. Reggie gently placed me on the bed, knelt beside me, and his warm breath brushed my face. He lifted my chin, his eyes twinkling mischievously. Liz, the best way to get back at a man is to completely forget about him. We locked eyes, and I pondered his words. It kind of made sense. We're adults, no need to play innocent. I closed my eyes, waiting for him to move forward. But he stopped. He kissed my forehead lightly and said, I still want to wait until you're ready. Then he pulled the blanket over me and patted my head like a kid. You must be tired today. Get some rest. I opened my eyes and kicked him in frustration. He laughed softly for a while, then stopped teasing and grabbed another blanket to sleep beside me. After 3 days, Tyler finally remembered me, his fiancé. He called, asking when I'd return home. How funny. What home do we have? I bought the wedding house, arranged the furniture myself, and he didn't contribute a dime yet, had the nerve to ask. Tyler's voice was hollow, filled with resentment as he questioned me. You took everything from the wedding house, not planning to come back. You even took the bed. You want me to sleep on the streets? He got it wrong. I didn't take it. I sold everything. I even sold the house, and the agent hadn't changed the locks yet. I adjusted my sun hat and sipped my drink leisurely. Go find your first love. The bed in her rental is enough for both of you. If she tries to hurt herself again, you can save her in time. Otherwise, by the time she hits the hospital, her wounds might have healed and the doctors would laugh. All these years, it's the same old tricks of pretending to be sick and self-harming, and Tyler the fool falls for it every time. Mentioning his first love always made Tyler mad, and sure enough, he got furious on the other end. He started lecturing me condescendingly. This is our business. Why drag her into it? Liz, I'm treating your thing with my brother like a joke. I'm super busy and don't have time to pick you up. I'm giving you a chance to back down now, or you'll regret it when there's no way out. Ridiculous. Who gave him such a big ego to think he could give me a chance? In a foreign land, Reggie grabbed my phone and responded lazily, Bro, she doesn't need a way out. Take care of your first love. I'll take care of Liz. There was a moment of silence, followed by a string of curses, and Reggie slowly hung up the phone. He smiled warmly and shrugged. He's really petty. If it were me, I'd only care if Liz is happy. I rolled my eyes at him. He could drop the act around me. His smile faded, and he stared straight at my face, then grabbed my chin and kissed me until I almost couldn't stand. All right, don't think about that guy in front of me. I'll get jealous. Come on, let's jet, he said, then led me onto a plane. He flew a helicopter up to 3,000 meters high, showing me the stunning mountains and seas below. At that moment, my world felt vast and beautiful, free from all the drama, making me feel completely refreshed. Maybe I should have done this sooner, not getting tangled in love. These years had drained me, leaving me lifeless. Reggie truly lived up to his reputation as the most playful and carefree young master of the Bennett family. We spent half a month abroad, doing something new and thrilling every day. Gliding, surfing, skydiving, it turned out my world could be more than just work, and the messy love triangle with Tyler. As I rapidly descended from the sky, the wind roaring past my ears, my heart pounded. Yet I felt an inexplicable surge of energy. After being cooped up for so long, returning to nature was invigorating. Love and romance seemed so trivial. Let the drama of competing for a man go to hell. I stretched out my arms and embraced the vast world. When I landed back on solid ground, my soul felt renewed, like a new seed sprouting inside me. Reggie gently removed my goggles and tidied my messy hair with a soft touch. He clicked his tongue and said, You didn't cry. I joked, What, did all the other girls you brought cry? He sighed, lamenting that I thought so little of him. You're the first and only one. Then he turned serious. The first and only girl who soaked my shirt with her tears. I was taken aback, remembering a few years ago when I caught Tyler passionately kissing Gemma in a secluded corridor. I turned around and bumped into Reggie. He glanced at the kissing couple, then looked at me with a mocking expression. My tears fell instantly, leaving him at a loss. Finally, he held me in his arms and let me cry my heart out. He asked me back then what was so great about Tyler, and I couldn't answer. Who can explain the nature of liking someone? Maybe it was the care he showed me when we were young, or perhaps it was the confident and dazzling guy in the crowd who happened to capture my heart at a certain moment, affecting my entire youth. Since then, my happiness and sadness were tied to him, but now he was no longer the person I liked in my youth. I snapped out of my thoughts and angrily hit Reggie, making him laugh at me. He pretended to be in pain, then put away his usual carefree attitude, extended his hand to me, and said seriously, "All right, adventure time is over. Miss Liz, from today on, start your new life." I looked at him, the sunlight casting a golden glow around him, and saw a new life reaching out to me. I took a deep breath and smiled brightly. Okay. I heard that Tyler was searching for me all over the world, and every time he came to my house, my granddad drove him away. My granddad never liked seeing me chasing after Tyler, so this situation suited him perfectly. Tyler was beaten to a pulp by his granddad and had to stay home for 3 days before Mr. Bennett gave him another chance to win me back. This routine had been going on for years. I used to forgive him time and again because I liked him, but this time, even if he knelt until he died, I wouldn't look back. When Reggie was driving me home, we were chatting and laughing when a dark figure suddenly rushed out. Tyler saw me hugging his brother goodbye, and his face turned super ugly. He angrily punched his brother. With red eyes, he roared, "Reggie, have you no shame? You can date anyone but not her. She's your sister-in-law. How are you any different from a homewrecker?" I instinctively shielded Reggie, asking if he was okay. Reggie stood up unsteadily and gently patted my head with his long fingers. He coaxed me to stay aside, obediently. After wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth and glancing at it, he swung back with a precise and fierce punch, knocking Tyler to the ground. Grabbing Tyler by the collar, he pinned him against the wall, slowly raised his captivating eyes, and smirked wickedly. "Why are you yelling at me, bro? If Liz didn't like me, would I have the chance to be a homewrecker? If you think it's wrong for me to be a homewrecker, just give Liz to me. Then I wouldn't be a homewrecker. Being a homewrecker is just a way to prove my charm. Besides, now that Liz has chosen me, you're the homewrecker. How funny." Reggie's words were even more manipulative than Gemma's. I felt so embarrassed I wanted to dig a hole and hide. This time, Tyler could finally tell the difference between sincere and insincere. His eyes widened, knowing his brother's character, but he didn't expect him to be so shameless. Fuming with anger, Tyler shoved his brother aside, turned around, and raised his fist, ready to teach him a lesson. Reacting quickly, I didn't hesitate and swung my bag, knocking Tyler to the ground. He clutched his head and took a while to get up. Tyler looked at me in disbelief, unable to recover from the shock of me hitting him. "Liz, you actually hit me for him." Reggie, on the other hand, leaned lightly into the flower bed, looking at me with a pitiful expression. "Liz, look how rough my brother is. My head hurts. I need a kiss from you to feel better." Tyler's veins bulged with anger at his brother's manipulative words. Ignoring everything else, he came towards me and grabbed me, refusing to let me help Reggie. He threatened me domineeringly. "Liz, do you dare to help him?" I ignored him and extended my hand directly to help Reggie up. Reggie pretended to be injured, leaning against me, glaring provocatively at Tyler. "Brother is too pervy. He even controls who you help. Luckily, you didn't choose him. Otherwise, his pettiness would have driven you mad." Tyler clenched his fists in fury, pointing at Reggie and cursing. "He's just pretending and you believe him. Liz, are you so desperate for love? Does anyone work for you?" Before he could finish, I slapped him. I had endured him long enough. I looked at him, sneering coldly. "I'm not desperate for just anyone. For example, you're not good enough." "Tyler Bennett, do you think I can't live without you? Today I'm telling you, I, Liz, am with your brother." Boldly, I held Reggie's hand, letting him see clearly. "Now, you can leave." Tyler didn't believe it. He was convinced that his brother was seducing me and insisted I open my eyes. I didn't have the patience to argue and called the bodyguards at the door to keep the madman out. Reggie grasped my hand tightly, signaling to his brother with a smug smile. Bro, it's too cold outside. I'll go home with my fiance first. You should go back early too. If you catch a cold, no one will pity you. Blocked by the bodyguards, Tyler went berserk, cursing wildly. He kicked the stone lion at my house to vent his anger, but ended up hurting his own foot, crouching on the ground for a long time before getting up. The liaison for the project with the Bennett Group changed from Tyler to Reggie. I personally requested it. Mr. Bennett saw that I was determined to break with Tyler and had to agree. After all, my family invested heavily to save the Bennett Company back then, and Mr. Bennett had to consider my opinion. With the personnel change, the collaboration went much smoother. Previously, dealing with Tyler was always frustrating. He would dismiss my ideas without even trying, and when he did execute, the results were far from my expectations. His subordinates showed me no respect, leading to countless arguments between us. Reggie didn't use the original team, but quickly assembled a new, experienced, and reliable group. They adapted quickly, and I was very satisfied. Reggie's vision and decision-making ability far exceeded my expectations. He could spot issues in the project at a glance. I realized I had underestimated him, thinking he was useless. Noticing my gaze, he lifted his eyes and smiled. I told you, I wouldn't let you regret it. I crossed my arms, showing my anticipation. As we finalized the next steps, there was a commotion outside. Tyler pushed past the security guard, storming into my company's meeting room in a fit of rage. He threw the documents in front of me, nearly hitting my face, but Reggie's long arm blocked them just in time. His arm was cut and started bleeding. He hissed in pain. Tyler began to berate me without holding back. Liz, are you out of your mind? I'm the person in charge of this project. When will you be able to separate work from personal feelings? I ignored him, grabbed Reggie's scratched hand, and called for an assistant to bring some disinfectant. Then I calmly looked at the rabid Tyler and spoke. Oh well, you're not in charge anymore. Seems like some people still haven't sobered up, so let me remind you, Mr. Bennett. The focus of this project has always been our Mossman Company, not your Bennett Company, and certainly not you. If you have nothing else, please leave and close the door behind you. He was instantly speechless, knowing that I, as the client, had the authority to replace the team, but he was unwilling to back down. He frowned, searching for a new reason to accuse me of being despicable. I just want to see Gemma for a moment. Do you really need to make such a big deal out of it? She's not well, and I promised her mom I would help take care of her. Why do you always overthink things? You have money, love, family, and me. Why do you even need to take away the little care I give her? His shameless arguments disgusted me every time I heard them. I looked at his hypocritical face and sneered, mocking him. Would you say the same if I caught you two in bed, just chatting under the covers? And if it weren't for you, Gemma wouldn't even have the right to know me. Whether she lives or dies has nothing to do with me. Tyler Bennett. Do you think you're so important that I'd waste my effort to compete? If you can't give me your undivided love, then get out of my life. Tyler was stunned, as the old me would easily fall into the trap of proving I wasn't jealous of Gemma. My current indifferent attitude left him momentarily at a loss. At this moment, Reggie pretended to have a headache and leaned his head on my shoulder. Liz, a few days ago, bro hit me and I still feel a bit off. I'm just quietly taking care of you. I don't know why bro would overthink. Reggie knew how to rile up his brother. Tyler was furious after hearing this and took a step forward. He couldn't hit me, but he could hit his brother. However, before he could act, the security guards I had called blocked him. From now on, don't let unrelated people in casually. The security guard stepped forward to push him out. For the first time, the once high-spirited Mr. Bennett was thrown out in front of everyone, and in his fury, he left with a warning. Liz Bennett, mark my words, the heir of the Bennett Group will never be an outsider. I apologized, I offered you the position of Mrs. Bennett, and you were the one who didn't want it. Don't come crying with regret later. I paid him no mind, closed the door, and called everyone to continue the meeting. In the future, who would regret it was still uncertain. After Tyler left, he deliberately tried to sabotage our collaborative projects, but each time Reggie easily resolved the issues. The people of the Bennett Group usually acted so high and mighty, yet they all respected Reggie. And I couldn't help but suspect there was something more to this. Maybe it's more accurate to say he's always been pretending to be a fool to catch the wise. The Bennett Group is truly interesting. Reggie, how many more surprises do you have for me? Without the previous person in charge of our collaboration with the Bennett Group, constantly shirking work to chase after his first love, and others obstructing us, the project progressed very quickly. After several months of hard work, our team successfully launched the Health Tea product. The marketing team targeted young consumers and leveraged the Health Tea selling point, using the internet to create a buzz that immediately made the brand go viral. Monthly revenue directly surpassed $1 billion, causing a sensation. My granddad and old Meister Bennett attended our celebration banquet together, praising us young people for being daring and capable. They said it was time to let the younger generation take over with confidence. Tyler didn't come, using the excuse of not feeling well. I heard he was so angry behind the scenes that he trashed his office. He never expected that the project he looked down on would be such a huge success. The senior executives of the Mossman Group no longer dared to look down on me because I'm a woman. They changed my title from Miss to President Mossman, and their attitudes became more respectful. When Reggie raised his glass to celebrate with me, I smiled and accepted, inviting him to watch the upcoming show with me. I'm someone who always keeps my word. I told him that helping him take over the Bennett Group was not just talk. He nodded happily. I'm someone who always believes in beautiful ladies. Tyler repeatedly failed to sabotage our collaboration and messed up his own work as well. He was always lovey-dovey with his first love, and whenever Gemma acted out, he would rush home anxiously, leading to several major errors in his work, almost causing serious mistakes. Old Mr. Bennett didn't say anything, so Tyler didn't care either. He always thought that as the eldest grandson of the Bennett family, no matter how hard Reggie worked, he could never compete with him. The legitimate young master of the Bennett family. Watching Tyler's antics from behind, I snickered and suddenly felt lucky that I woke up early enough and didn't get dragged into the abyss by such a foolish and brainless person. After these days of hard work, I realized that compared to love, I need someone who shares my ambitions and my career, someone who can always fight alongside me. I turned my gaze to Reggie, who was toasting and socializing with the big shots at the business banquet. If I were to go along with this mistake, it might not be so bad. Old Mr. Bennett's 80th birthday. The banquet was grand, with 100 tables and luxury cars filling the parking lot. Celebrities from all walks of life attended, dressed formally. Men in suits and women in gowns, all bringing gifts. The son is incompetent, the grandson is love-struck. And old Mr. Bennett, at 80, still hasn't officially retired. Rumors had been circulating that he might announce his successor at this birthday banquet. In the past, I used to accompany Tyler, but this time I came with Reggie. Our arrival caused quite a stir, as news of the engagement switch had already spread across various circles. Tyler and his first love arrived a step later than us. Gemma was meticulously dressed in a stunning red dress, her hair elegantly up. Those unaware might have thought this birthday banquet was for her. She clung to Tyler's arm, looking at me smugly, waiting for old Mr. Bennett to announce the successor and humiliate me. Everyone was watching us, anticipating a dramatic showdown. Gemma couldn't resist her petty urge and started scrutinizing Reggie beside me. Miss Liz doesn't seem to like Tyler that much, do you? You changed your heart so quickly. Before I could respond, Reggie spoke up first. Reggie leisurely swirled his red wine, glancing at her indifferently, still with that cocky, carefree demeanor, his words sharp as ever. Oh, Miss Gemma is still alive. Didn't they issue a critical condition notice? Must be a quack doctor. Don't go to that hospital next time. And didn't my brother give you money? Why are you wearing a knockoff dress? Gemma picked the wrong person to mess with. She didn't know that Reggie never spared anyone, regardless of age or gender, when it came to insults. Even a dog would leave with its head down after encountering him. Gemma's face turned red with anger, but because it was true, she didn't dare to argue loudly and instead played the victim in front of Tyler. Tyler, I didn't, you know me. Over the years, Gemma had made quite a bit of front of Tyler's side. I never understood why she couldn't bear to buy a genuine dress. In the past, to outshine me, she wore knockoff copies of my dresses to banquets. Tyler, for her sake, would belittle my attire, forcing me to change. This time was no different. Tyler pulled her protectively, glaring at Reggie to show some respect. He blocked our way, demanding that we apologize for humiliating his first love. You can bully me, but not Gemma. You both must apologize to Gemma today. Reggie and I exchanged glances as if hearing the world's biggest joke. I parted my red lips slightly. The dead don't deserve it. Neither do you. Tyler was instantly enraged. To save face, he grabbed my arm and threatened, Liz, if you don't apologize today, once I become the chairman, I'll cancel all collaborations with the Mossman Group. Before he could finish, I turned and kicked his injured knee. He fell to his knees behind me with a thud, while Gemma, beside him, protectively held her stomach in shock. Everyone watching held their breath, covering their mouths and whispering, is this the Liz they said was obsessed with Tyler? If there weren't people around, I think she'd beat him to death. I told you, a true heiress would never be interested in someone like Tyler. I retracted my leg and smiled at Tyler and Gemma. I'll be watching. With that, I took Reggie's arm and walked away. Reggie lowered his voice and chuckled, cool as ever. I raised my glass and clinked it with his, warning him not to mess with me in the future, or the outcome would be even worse. At Mr. Bennett's birthday banquet, Tyler didn't dare make a scene. He glanced at the surrounding guests and finally had to swallow his pride. On stage, a celebrity was singing, and Tyler's first love also got up to sing a birthday song for old Mr. Bennett. It was said that Gemma was pregnant, and the two of them wanted to take this opportunity to please old Mr. Bennett. They believed that with a great-grandchild on the way, old Mr. Bennett would be overjoyed and would surely agree to Gemma marrying into the Bennett family on the spot and announce that Tyler was the successor of the Bennett family. Old Mr. Bennett just took one look, and his face turned displeased. Is there no stage outside for her to perform on? Is it that she doesn't know the occasion, or that you, Tyler Bennett, don't know the occasion? Old Mr. Bennett's voice carried authority without anger, and the event coordinator immediately understood his meaning. They hurriedly adjusted the program and drove Gemma off the stage while she was singing. She looked towards me, sitting next to old Mr. Bennett, thinking I had spoken ill of her to old Mr. Bennett, and glared at me hatefully before turning to Tyler to act pitifully. Tyler, not daring to go against his grandfather's wishes, had no choice but to ask her to step down first, promising to take her to see his grandfather later. When it was time for the birthday congratulations, Reggie Sweet talked to old Mr. Bennett, making him smile from ear to ear. Old Mr. Bennett looked at me and Reggie with satisfaction, nodding and saying that if this man ever dared to bully me, he would back me up. I smiled. How could that be? Reggie and I get along very well, both in work and in life. Old Mr. Bennett raised his cloudy eyes to look at Reggie, as if seeing his long-deceased daughter through him. When it was Tyler's turn, he came hand in hand with Gemma. Old Mr. Bennett immediately stood up and said he was tired. No need to see outsiders. Reggie helped Grandpa entertain the guests. I'll go rest for a while. Just as he was about to leave, his cane paused, and he turned back to Tyler. I've heard that Miss Gemma's health isn't good, and you've been running back and forth between the company and home. In that case, Tyler, you should take a break and spend some quality time with Miss Gemma. Tyler's face changed on the spot, and Gemma's face also turned extremely awkward, holding on to him helplessly. Once he was old Mr. Bennett's most beloved grandson. He thought they were always a family and planned to use the great-grandchild to make old Mr. Bennett happy this time, to rightfully take over the CEO position. Unexpectedly, old Mr. Bennett's attitude was so resolute. Old Mr. Bennett asking Reggie to entertain the guests carried almost the weight of announcing to the outside world who the future head of the Bennett family would be. Tyler looked at me and Reggie, his face filled with hidden resentment. I looked at him provocatively, as if to remind him that I had told him long ago. It was my choice that made him the heir, right? Tyler always thought that now the Bennett Group had risen, they didn't need to rely on our Mossman Group, Asa and Irgemor, and never took it seriously. What he didn't know was that the condition my granddad set for helping the Bennett Group back then was that whoever I, Liz Mossman, chose would be the successor of the Bennett Group. This morning, my granddad had pressured old Mr. Bennett, reminding him not to make any foolish mistakes. Although old Mr. Bennett was not in the company, he surely knew everything that had been happening in the company these days, and I believed that for the long-term development of the company, he would have his own considerations. Tyler was kicked out of the Bennett Group's headquarters. Old Mr. Bennett said he was too reckless, and should go gain some experience below before coming back. His original position was temporarily taken over by Reggie, who started to aggressively suppress his influence after taking power. Various negative news about the project Tyler previously managed began to surface, and even the car accident of Reggie's parents was brought up for discussion. Back then, the youngest daughter of the Bennett family was a prominent figure in the business world and was once seen as the heir by outsiders. Unfortunately, a car accident took both her and her husband's lives, leaving young Reggie behind. There were always rumors that their deaths were suspicious, with everything pointing to Tyler's parents. After all, they were too mediocre in ability, and if they didn't get rid of the sister, they would have to live under her shadow for life. My granddad also had suspicions back then. He didn't comment much, but his attitude towards the Bennett family's eldest made it clear that it was likely true. I was vaguely worried and reminded Reggie during a meal not to act too hastily. The Bennett family is scarier than ghosts. Reggie didn't take it seriously and even smiled at me. Are you worried about me? At such a time, he still had the mood to joke. I pretended to be angry, but he just curved his lips and then laughed heartily. I'm very happy that you care about me. The restaurant performer started playing the violin, and Reggie stood up to invite me. Miss, may I have the honor of a dance? His eyes were smiling, his manners gentlemanly, just like back then. Many years ago, at a charity gala, Tyler insisted on dancing with his old flame, ignoring my feelings, and it was Reggie who saved my dignity that night. He was in a tailcoat, standing tall and straight, with a faint smile on his lips, extending his hand to invite me to dance. That night, he overshadowed Gemma, bringing me into the center of attention. I wasn't good at dancing, so he guided me, helped me relax, and let me trust him completely. That was the first time I felt at ease and happy, my body relaxing in his arms and my smile brighter than usual. He looked down and asked me if it was worth it. I stubbornly replied that it was none of his business. So, for many years after, he always looked at me with a smile as I tangled with Tyler. I danced gracefully in his arms, and he leaned in closer, our noses touching. Is it possible that I liked you back then? Then he corrected himself. No, it was even earlier. Do you remember the first time we met? Memories from childhood flooded my mind. The first time we met was when you had just returned to the Bennett family, being mocked by other kids for being an orphan. I also grew up without parents and understood that helplessness, so I stepped forward to drive the bullies away, only to get my palm whipped by my granddad for fighting. I widened my eyes in realization. Could this be the so-called suspension bridge effect? But how old was he back then? The music stopped, and he kissed my lips at that moment. He whispered, Miss Mossman, it really took you a long time to turn around, but luckily, I still waited for you. I blushed belatedly. While I was working, my eyelids suddenly twitched. I had a feeling that something was about to happen, and my phone suddenly rang. When I answered, someone told me that Reggie had been in a car accident and was in the hospital. Is history repeating itself? I knew that someone as petty as Tyler was capable of anything. I nearly lost my balance, grabbed my keys, and rushed to the hospital, praying that Reggie would be okay. When I arrived, a car covered with a white sheet passed by me, and I saw the police speaking to a doctor. I was convinced that Reggie had been in an accident and ran straight towards the gurney. I cried my heart out, my mind filled with memories of our recent days together. He saved me on stage, flew me above the clouds, and deliberately annoyed my ex for me. I didn't know how long I was immersed in grief, but someone patted my shoulder. With tears and snot all over my face, I turned to see him with a slight scratch on his forehead, hands in his pockets, smiling at me. Who are you crying for? If it's your ex, I might get jealous. With that familiar, infuriating expression, I ran towards him and he hugged me tightly. He's fine, he always plays with cars and has great driving skills, perfectly avoiding this accident. However, his uncle's family was confirmed to have hired someone to kill him, and Reggie had already caught the person and handed them over to the police. These days, Reggie had been deliberately suppressing Tyler's faction to force them into a corner, making them reveal their true colors. Sure enough, Tyler's people couldn't sit still, fearing that their plot to kill Reggie's parents years ago would be exposed, so they tried the same trick with this car accident. Tyler and his father were taken in for questioning. Although they initially refused to admit anything, they eventually gave in to the evidence. Gemma, seeing that Tyler was in trouble, tried to flee abroad with her child overnight but was stopped by the police. She was reported for fraud. It turned out all the money she had been saving was for this. She confessed that she never loved any man and only ever loved money. After crying, I suddenly realized something. You used me on purpose, didn't you? Reggie wiped away my tears and shook his head in denial. No, returning to the Bennett Group was planned a long time ago. I spent 5 years preparing for a takeover. Didn't you notice that most of the Bennett Group's people are mine? So, even if you chose him, I had a way to bring him down. I had noticed that those people listened to him. His voice was soft, as if handling a treasure. I originally planned to wait until I was in that position to take you away from him. Fortunately, fate helped me and brought you back to my side. With that, he domineeringly pulled me back into his arms and gave me a light kiss on the forehead. At night, I lay in bed after taking a shower. Reggie leaned against the door, lifting his chin, and deliberately asked, "Miss Mossman, are you in the wrong room?" I glared at him in embarrassment, lifted the covers to get out of bed, but he strode over and firmly pressed down on my hand. He leaned close to me, his breath surrounding me with a faint, refreshing mint scent. He closed his eyes and kissed me. This kind of thing should be initiated by me. Liz, I will make you happy. I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him passionately, showing him with my actions that I was willing. The warmth of his palm penetrated my skin, making my heart race. I'm very happy, I told him.